Third season. They were always the same woods. She saw sleepily asleep drove through the early morning darkness, deep and immense, covered with yesterday's snowfall which had frozen overnight. They were the same woods lay behind her house, and they stretched all the way to here, she thought, for miles and miles, longer than I could work in a day or a week even, but they are still the same woods. The thought made her feel good. It was like thinking of God. It was like thinking of the space between here and the moon. It was like thinking of all the foreign countries from her geography book, where even now. Andy knew people were going to bed while she and her father and Charlie, Spoon, and Mac. Charlie's 11 years old son were driving deeper into the Pennsylvania countryside to go hunting. They had risen long before dawn. Her mother, yelling and not trying to hide her Spanish, cooked an eggs and French toast. Her father smoked a cigarette and flicked us into his saucer while Andy listened, wondering why doesn't he come and won't he ever come, until at last a car pulled into the gravelled drive and honked. There will be Cherry Spoon, her father said. He always said Cherry Spoon, even though his real name was Spearing, because Cherry was, in a sense, shaped like a spoon with a large head and a narrow waist and chest. And his mother kissed her and her father and said, "Well, have a good time and be careful." Soon they were outside in the bitter dark, loitering together by the back porch light. Their breaths stung. The woods behind the house were then only a black streak against the wash of night, and it doesn't dozed in the car and worked to find that it was half light. Mac, also sleeping, had slid against her. She pushed him away and looked out the window. Her breath clouded the glass, and she was cold. The car's heater didn't work right. They were hiding over gentle hills, the woods on both sides now. The same woods. She knew because she had been watching the whole way. Even while she slept, it had been in her dreams, and she had never lost sight of them. Charlie's brain was drying. "I don't understand why she's coming," he said to her father. "How did she anyway act?" "Nine," her father replied. "He's small for her age, so 9. What's the difference? She will just add to the noises and get tired besides." "No, she won't," the father said. "She can work me to death, and she bring good luck. You will see animals. I don't know how she does it, but they come right up to her. We go working in the woods, and we will spawn more raccoons and possums and such than I ever see when I'm alone." Charlie grunted. "Besides, she's not a bad little show even if she doesn't hunt yet. She shoots the 22 really good." "Pumpkin," Charlie said, and snorted, and the tiger shouting, "Aunt, deer hunting." "Well, she's not gonna be shouting anyway, Charlie," her father said. "Don't worry, she'll be no bother. "I still don't know why she's coming," Charlie said. "Because she wants to, and I want her to, just like you and Mac. No difference." Charlie turned onto a side road and after a mile or so slowed down. "Let's eat," he cried. He stopped, backed up, and entered a narrow dirt road almost hidden by trees. 5,000 yards down, the road ran parallel to a fenced-in field. Charlie parked in a cleared area deeply rooted by frozen tractor tracks. The gate was locked in the spring. Andy saw there will be cows here in the dog-leg chestnut, but now the field was unmarked and bare. "This is it," Charlie Spoon declared. "Me and Mac was up here just 2 weeks ago, scouting it out, and there's still Mac saw the trucks." "That's right," Mac said. "Well, we'll just see about it," her father said, putting on his gloves. He turned to Andy. How you doing, Honeybun? Just fine, she said. Andy shivered and stamped as they unloaded first the reflex, which lay unseated and checked, sliding the bollies, sighting through scopes, adjusting the slings and the gear, their food and tents and sleeping bags and stuff stored in 4 backpacks. 3 big ones for Charlie's brain and her father and Meg, and a day pack for her. That's about your size, Meg said to kiss her. She reddened and said, Meg, I can carry a pack big as yours any day. He laughed and pressed his knee against the back of hers, so lay her leg buckled. Cut it out, she said. She wanted to make an ice ball and throw it at him. But she knew that her father and Charlie were anxious to get going, and she didn't want to displease them. Meg slid under the gate and they handed the packs over to him. Then they slid under and began walking across the field toward the sand woods. They ran all the way back to her home, where even now her mother was probably rising again to wash their breakfast dishes and make herself a fresh pot of coffee. She's there, and we are here. The soul satisfied, and there was no place else she would rather be. Meg came up beside her. Over there's Canada, he said, nodding toward the woods. Oh, she said, no likely. I don't mean right over there. I mean farther up north. You think I'm dumb? That was your father, she thought. Look at that, Meg said, pointing to a piece of corn, drawn lying on spots, cropped bare of snow, a frozen mid-dawn muffin. He picked it up and sailed it at her catch. Mike, she yelled. His laugh was greggy as he was. She walked faster. He seemed different today somehow. Bounded in his yellow and black checkered coat, a rifle in hand, his silly floppy head no hair covering his ears. They all seemed different as she watched them trudge through the snow. Meg and her father and Cherry Spoon bigger maybe as if the cold landscape enlarged rather than diminished them. So they the only fingers in the landscape took on size and meaning just by being there. If they weren't there, everything would be quiet and the woods would be the same as before, but they are here. And they saw, looking behind her, a boot prints in the snow and too, and so it is all different. We will go down to the cart where we found those deer tracks, Charlie said as they entered the woods. Maybe we will get lucky and get a late one coming through. The woods descended into a gully. The snow was softer and deeper here, so they often ended sank to her knees. Charlie and Mac walked the top of the gully while and she and her father walked along the best some 30 yards behind them. If they miss the first shot, we will get a second, her father said, and she nodded as if she had known this all the time. She listened to the crunch of their boots, their breathing, and their drumming of a distant woodpecker and the cracking in winter. The woods cracked as if everything was stunning, ready to snap like dried chicken bones. We are hunting, and saw the cold air burned her nostrils. They stopped to make lunch by a rock outcropping. They protected them from the wind. Her father heated the bean soup her mother had made her for them, and they ate it with bread already stiff from the cold. He had Charlie took a few pulls from a flask of gin bean while she scoured the place with snow and repicked them. Then they all had coffee with sugar and pounded milk, and her father pounded her a cup too. Poured her a cup too. We won't tell you, Mom, he said, and Meg laughed. And he held the cup the way her father did, not by the handle but around the ring. The coffee tasted smoky. She felt a little crazy, but she drank it all. Charlie's Bone picked his teeth with a fingernail. Now you might have noticed one thing, he said. What's that? Her father asked. You might have noticed you don't hear no refuse. That's because there are no other hunters here. We have got the whole damn woods to ourselves. Now I ask you, do I know how to find him? We haven't seen deer yet, neither. Or we will, Charlie said, but no far away now. He leaned back against the rock. Deer are sleeping, resting up for the evening feed. I seen a deer behind our house once, and it was afternoon, and he said, yeah, honey, but it was before deer season. Charlie said, grinning. They know something now. They are smart, that way. That's right, Max said. Andy looked at her father. Had she said something stupid? Well, Charlie, he said, if they know so much, how come so many gay men slaves shot? That's the ones they don't believe what they know, Charlie replied. The man laughed. Andy hesitated, and then laughed with them. They moved on as much to keep warm as to find a dear. The wind became even stronger, blowing through the treetops, and it sounded like the ocean. And once Andy thought she could smell salty air, but it was impossible. The ocean was hundreds of miles away, farther than Canada even. Her parents had gone last summer to stay for a week in a motor on a New Jersey shore. That was the first time she'd seen the ocean, and it frightened her. It was huge and empty, yet always moving. Everything lay hidden. If you walked in it, you couldn't see how deep it was or what might be below. If you swam, something could pull you under and you'd never be seen again. In Muskie, Frank smiled and made her think of things. Dying? Her mother had floated beyond the breakers, calling to her to come in, but Andy wouldn't go farther than a few feet into the surf. Her mother swam and splashed with animal-like delight while her father, smiling shyly, held his white arms above the wrist-deep water as if afraid to gain a weight. Once the convert rolled over and the same man both tossing, and when her mother tried to stand up, the Sophie sitting behind, Andy saw that her mother's swimsuit top had come off, so that her breasts shot free, her nipples like two dark eyes and breasts. Andy looked around, except for two women under a yellow umbrella farther up. The beach was empty. Her mother stood up unsteadily, regained her footing. Taking what seemed the longest time, she calmly refixed her top. Andy lay on the beach towel and closed her eyes. The sound of the surf made her head echo. And now it was winter. The sky was already dimming, not just with the absence of light, but with the mist that clung to the hunter's face like cobwebs. They might come early, and it was chill. When she stood still, she kept wriggling her toes to make sure they were there. Her father rubbed her arms and held her to him bravely. And they feel better. She unpacked the food while the others put up the tents. How about rounding us up some firewood, Mac? Cherry asked. I will do it, Andy said. Cherry looked at her softly, and then handed her the canvas carrier. There wasn't much wood on the ground, so it took her a while to get a good load. She was about 100 yards from a camp, near a cluster of high, lichen-covered boulders, when she saw through a crack in the rock a book of two dogs working gingerly, almost daintily through the azure trees. She tried to push her breathing as they passed no more than 20 yards away. There was nothing she could do if she yelled. They'd be gone. By the time she got back to camp, they had begun. The box stopped nostrils curling, tail up and early. He looked directly at her. Still, she didn't move, no one muscle. He was beautiful book, the color of late turned maple leaves. Unafraid, he lowered his trail, and he and his dogs silently merged into the trees. Andy walked back to camp and dropped the firewood. I saw 3 deer, she said, a bull and 2 dogs. Where? Charlie's brain quiet, looking behind her as if they might have followed her into camp. In the woods yonder. They are gone now. Well, here. Charlie banged his coffee cup against his knee. Didn't I say she could find animals? Her father said, grinning. Too late to go after them, Charlie muttered. It will be dark in a quarter hour, then, Mac echoed. They just walked right up to her, her father said. Well, leastwise, this proves there is deer here. Charlie began snapping long branches into shorter ones. You know, I think I will stick with you, he told Andy. Since you are so good at finding deer at all, how they like be? Okay, I guess, Andy murmured. She hoped he was kidding. No way did she want to harness Charlie's spoon. Still, she was pleased he had said it. Her father and Charlie took one tent, she and Mac and the other. When they were in their sleeping bags, Mac said in the darkness, I bet you really didn't see no deer, did you? She sighed at Mac. Why would I lie? How big was the book? 4 points I counted. Max snorted. You just believe what you want, Mac, she said testily. Too bad it ain't book season, he said. Will I go pee? So pee. She heard him turn in his bag. You ever see it? He asked. It? Was it? Yes, a pigger. Sure, she lied. Whose? Yours father's. She was uncomfortable. No, she said. Will, whose name? No, I don't know. Leave me be. Why don't you? Didn't see a deer, didn't see a picker, Max said tensely. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, my cousin lives. I saw his. Well, how old is he? 1.5. Ha, a baby. A baby's like a little worm. It ain't really one at all. If he says he will show me his, she sobbed. I will kick him. I will just get out of my bag and kick him. I went hunting with my daddy and the Rush and Danny Simmons last year in book season, Max said. And we go ourselves. 1. And we hog-chased the thing. You know what that is, don't you? No, she said. She was confused. What was they talking about now? This when you cut him open and take all his goose, so the meat don't spoil, makes him lighter to pick out too. She tried to imagine what the deer's goose might look like, pulled from the gaping hole. What do you do with them? She said. The goose? Oh, just leave for the bears. She wound her finger like a knife blade along her belly. When we left them on the ground, Max said they smoked like they were cooking. Oh, she said. They cut off the deer's pecker too, you know. And they imagined this pecker and shuddered. Mac, you are disgusting. He laughed. Well, I go pee. She heard him rustle out of his bag. Bro, he cried, flapping his arms. It is cold. He makes so much noise, she sobbed. Just noise and more noise. Her father woke them before first light. He warned them to talk softly and say that they were going to the place where Andy had seen the deer, to try to cut them off on their way back from their night feeding. Andy couldn't shake off her sleep. Stuffing her sleeping bag into its sack seemed to take an hour, and trying her boots was the strangest thing she'd ever done. Charlie's spoon made short chocolate, and the oatmeal with rhythms. Andy closed her eyes and between beats of her heart listened to the breathing of the forest. When I open my eyes, it will be lighter, she decided, but when she did it, it was still just as dark, except for the swirls of their flashlights and the using blue flame of the stove. There has not been just one moment when it all changes from the dark to light. And he thought she had missed it yesterday in the car. Today she would watch more closely, but when she commented again, it was already first light and they had moved to the rocks by the deer trail and had set up shooting positions. Meg and Cherry Spoon on the up trail side. She and her father behind them, some 6 feet up on a ledge. They become brighter, and some peering the tail pinks, ranking the hunters, yet providing little wounds. And they now smelled alder and pine and the slightly rotten odor of rock lichen. She rubbed her hand over into the stone and considered that it must be very old. It had probably been here before the giant prince, before anyone was in these woods at all. A chipmunk sniffed on a nearby branch. She emitted an imaginary refill and pressed the trigger. The chipmunk, frozen, then scurried away. Her legs were cramping on the narrow ledge. Her father sent 2 dots, one hand in his parka, the other cupped lightly around the refill. She could smell his scent of oil in the leather. His cheeks were speckled with gray-black whiskers, and he worried his jaw slightly, as if chewing a small piece of gum. Please let's get a deer, she prayed. A branch snapped on the other side of the rock face. Her father's hand stiffened on the refill, staring at her. He hasn't been sleeping at all, she marveled, and then his jaw relaxed, as did the lines around his eyes, and she heard Cherry Spoon call, "You, don't show it is us." He and Meg appeared from around the rock. They stopped beneath the ledge. Cherry solemnly crossed his arms. "I don't believe we are gonna get any deer here," he said dirtily. Andy's father lowered his rifle to Cherry and jumped down from the ledge, and then he reached up to Andy. She dropped into his arms, and he set her gently on the ground. Meg sidled up to her. "I know you didn't see no deer," he said. "Just because they don't come when you want on to don't mean she didn't see them," her father said. Still, she felt bad. Her telling about the deer had caused them to spend the morning there, cold and expectant, with nothing to show for it. It tramped through the woods for another 2 hours, not caring much about noise. Meg found some deer tracks, and they argued about how old they were. They split up for a while and then rejoined an old logging road the deer might use and followed it. The road crossed a stream which had mostly frozen over, but in a few spots still caught leaves and fingers in an icy rill. They forded it by jumping from rock to rock. The road narrowed after that, and the woods thickened. They stopped for lunch, hinting up Cherry's wife's shoulder, and his father cut squares of a pleasure cake with his hunting knife and handed them to her and Mac, who ate his almost daintily. Andy could finally taste knife oil on the cake. She was tired. She stretched her leg. The muscle that had cramped on the rock still ached. "Might as well relax," her father said, as if reading her thoughts. "We won't find deer till suppertime." Cherry Spoon leaned back against his back and folded his hands across his stomach. "Well, even if we don't get a deer," he said expansively, "it is still great to be out here, breathe some fresh air, climb around a bit, get away from the house and the old lady." He winked at Mac, who looked away. "That's what the woods are all about anyway." Cherry said, "You where the woman don't want to go." He bowed his head toward Andy. "With your exception, of course, little baby." He helped himself to another piece of pleasure cake. She underwoman, Meg said. Will she damn where she's gonna be? Charles said he grinned at her. Oh, will you? You are half a boy anyway, you go by a boy's name. What's your real name? Andra? And That's right, she said. She hoped that if she didn't look at him, Charlie would stop. Well, which do you like, Andy or Andra? Don't matter, she mumbled. Either. She's always been Andy to me, her father said. Charlie's bone was still grinning. So what are you going to be? Andra, a boy or a girl? I'm a girl, she said, but you want to be hunting and fishing and everything. She can do whatever she likes, her father said. You might as well have just had a boy and be done with it, Charlie exclaimed. That's funny, her father said, and they chuckled. That's just what her mama tells me. They were looking at her and she wanted to get away from them. Oh, even from her father, who chose to joke with them. I'm going to walk a bit, she said. She heard them laughing as she walked down the logging trail. She flapped her arms. She whispered, I don't care how much noise I make, she thought. Two girls fell from the underbrush, staring at her a little farther down, and the trail ended in a clearing that enlarged into a frozen meadow. Beyond in the woods began. Again, a few morning posts were all that was left to a fence that had once enclosed the field. The low afternoon sunlight reflected brightly off the snow so that Andy's eyes hurt. She squinted hard. A gust of wind blew across the field, streaming her face, and then, as if it had been waiting for her, the dog emerged from the tree opposite the steep cautiously into the field. Andy watched it. It stopped and stood quietly for what seemed a long time, and then ambled across. It stopped again about 70 yards away and began to browse a patch of sugar grass uncovered by the wind, carefully, slowly, never taking her eyes from the door. Andy walked backward, trying to step on the footprints she'd already made. When she was far enough back into the woods, she turned and walked faster, her heart rising. Please let it stay, she prayed. There is a door in the field yonder, she told them. They go there refiled and hurried down the trail. No use, her father said. We are making too much noise anyway you look like it. At least we go use the wind in our favor, Charlie's friend said, breathing heavily, but the door was still later grunting. Good Lord, Charlie whispered. He looked at her father. Well, who's shot? Andy spotted it, her father said in a low voice. Let her show it. What? Charlie's eyes widened. Andy couldn't believe what her father had just said. She'd only show tin cans and targets. She'd never even fired her father's 30-30. And she'd never killed anything. I can't, she whispered. That's right, she can't, Charlie insisted. She is not old enough, and she don't have a license, even if she was. Well, who's to tell? Her father said in a low voice. Nobody's going to know but us. He looked at her. Do you want to show it, Pumpkin? Why doesn't it hear us? She wondered. Why doesn't it run away? I don't know, she said. Well, I'm sure as he'll gonna show it, Charlie said. Her father grabbed Charlie's rifle barrel and held it. His voice was steady. Andy's good shot is her dear. She found it no use during be sitting on your ass back in the camp. She turned to her again. Now do you want to show it, Andy? Yes or no? He was looking at her. They were all looking at her. Suddenly she was angry at the deer, who refused to hear them, whose wouldn't run away even could. I will show it, she said. Charlie turned away in the disgust. She lay on the ground and pressed the rifle stock against her shoulder bone. The snow was cold through her parka. She smelled oil and wax and damp earth. She peeled off one glove with her teeth. Each size just like a 22, her father said gently. Cartridge already trembled as she had done so many times before. She slid down the scope. Now the door was in the reticle. She moved the barrier until the crosshair lined up. Her father was breathing beside her. and where the chest and the legs meet, or a little above Pumpkin. He was saying calmly, "That's the killing shot." But now, seeing it in the scope, and it was hesitant. Her finger weakened on the trigger. Still, she nodded a word her father said and signed it again. The cross hinges lined up in exactly the same spot. The door had hardly moved. Its browning gray body outlined starkly against the blue-backed snow. It doesn't know. And he thought, it just doesn't know. And as she looked there in the snow and the faraway trees and the fleet turned within the circular front to become like a picture on a calendar, no real, and she felt calm as if she had been dreaming everything. The day, the deer, the hunt itself, and she finger on the trigger was only a part of the dream. Shot, Cherry hissed. So escape, she saw the deer look up, ears high and streaming. Cherry groaned, and just as he did, and just at the moment when Andy knew the dawn would wander away, as if she could feel it, his hunches turning and gathering power, she pulled the trigger. Later she would think, I feel the recoil, I smelled the smoke, but I don't remember pulling the trigger. So the scalp the deer seemed to sink into itself, and then slowly laid legs first, head right as if to cry out. It trembled, still standing to keep its head high as if the alarm would safely failing. It clasped, soldered, and lay still. Goose, Meg cried. One shot, father yelled, clamping her on the back. Cherry's bone was shaking his head and smiling dumbly. I told you she was a great little show, her father said. I told you. Meg danced and clapped his hands. She was dazzled, no quarrel, understanding what had happened, and then they were closing the field toward the falling door. She, working dreamlike, the men laughing and joking, relaxed now from the tension of silence and anticipation. Suddenly, Meg pointed and cried out, Look at that! The deer was rising, legs unsteady. They stared at it, unable to comprehend, and in a moment the deer regained its feet and looking at them as if it too were trying to understand. Her father whistled softly. Charles Brown slung his rifle and raised it to his shoulder, but the deer was already bounding away. His harried shot missed, and the deer disappeared into the woods. Damn, he moaned. I don't believe his father said the deer was dead. Then here, Charlie yelled. It was got shot, and that's all. Stunned and good shot, clean shot, my ass. What have I done? And he thought. Her father slung his rifle over his shoulder. Well, let's go. It can't give too far. Here, I have seen deer run 10 miles. Don't shoot, Charlie said. He waved his arms. We may never find her. As they closed the field, Mac came up to her and said in a low voice, God shot a deer, you will go to hell. Shut up, Mac, she said, her voice cracking. It was a terrible thing she had done. She knew she couldn't bear to think of the deer in a pain and frightened. Please let it die, she prayed, but though searched all the last hour of daylight, so they had to recross the field and go up the loading trail in a twilight made even deeper by thick, smoky clouds. They didn't find the deer. They lost its trail almost immediately in a dense of elderberry and larch. I'm cold and I'm tired, Charlie Bone declared, and if you ask me, the deer's in another country already. No one's asking you, Charlie, her father said. They had a super of hard-seeming ham bread and the rest of the apple sauce cake. It seemed a bother to heat the coffee, so they had cold chocolate instead. Everyone turned in early. We'll find it in the morning, Honey Brown, her father said as she went to her tent. I don't like to think of it suffering. She was almost in tears. It is dead already, Pumpkin. Don't even think about it. He kissed her his breast sore, and his beard raw against her cheek. Andy was sure she wouldn't go to sleep. The image of the deer falling, and then rising again repeated itself whenever she closed her eyes, and then she heard an oil so hot and realized that it had awakened her, so she must have been asleep after all. She hoped the oil wouldn't hush, but instead it hooted longer. She wished her father or Cherry's Bone would wake up and do something about it, but no one moved in the other tent. And suddenly she was afraid they had all decamped. Wanting nothing more to do with her, she whispered Mac to the sleeping bag where he would be. But no one answered. She tried to find the flashlight she always kept by the side, but couldn't, and she cried in panic. Mac, are you there? He mumbled something, and immediately she felt foolish and hoped the wouldn't reply. When she awoke again, everything had changed. The oil was gone, and the woods were still, and she sensed light, blue and pale, like where before there had been none. The moon must have come out, she thought, and it was warm, too warmer, and then it had been. She got out of her sleeping bag and took off her parka. It was the room. Meg was asleep, breathing like an old man. She unzipped the tent and stepped outside. The woods were more beautiful than she had ever seen, and the moon made everything. Eyes remained glimmer with a quiet twilight imminent line, while underneath the island branches of trees were as dark as skeletons. She heard a crunching in the snow, the one sound in all silence, and there, walking down the looking trail into their camp, was the door. It is body like everything around her was slivered with forest and moonlight. It walked past the tent where her father and Cherry's Bone was sleeping, and stopped no more than 6 feet from her. Andy saw that she had shot it. Yes, had shot it cleanly, just where she thought she had, and the wound a jagged, bloody hole in the door's chest. A hurt shot, she thought. The door stepped closer slowly, and if she wished, could have reached out and touched it. It looked at her as if expecting her to do this, and so she did, running her hand slowly at first along the rough matted floor, and then down to the edge of the wood where she stopped. The door stood still. Hesitantly, Andy felt the edge of the wood. The torn flesh was sticky and warm. The wooden parted under her touch, and then almost without her knowing it. Her fingers were within, probing, yet still the door didn't move. Andy pressed deeper and saw flesh and the muscle and the sinew until her hand were more inside the wood, and she had found the dozen heart, warm and beating. She cropped it gently in her hand, as if she married alive. The heart quickened under her touch, becoming warmer and warmer until it was hot enough to burn in pain. Andy tried to remove her hand, but the wood closed about it and held her fast. Her hand was burning. She cried out in an angry, sure they would all hear and come to help, but they didn't. And then her hand pulled free, followed by a stinging rush of blood, more blood than she ever could have imagined. It covered her hand and arm, and she saw to her horror that her hand was steaming. She moaned and fell to her knees and plunged her hand into the snow. The deer looked at her gently and then tenderly walked back up to the trail. In the morning when she woke, Andy could still smell the blood, but she felt no pain. She looked at her hand. Even though it appeared unsearched, it felt weak and wasted. She couldn't move it freely and was afraid that others would notice. I would hide it in my jacket pocket, she decided, so nobody can see. She ate the meal at her father cooked and stayed apart from them all. No one spoke to her, and then shouted her. A light snow began to fall, and it was the last day of their hunting trip. She wanted to be home. Her father dumped the dregs of his coffee. Well, let's go look for her, he said. Again, They closed the hill. Andy lurched behind. She averted her eyes from the spot where the dew had fallen, already filling up with snow. Meg and Cherry entered the woods first. Followed by her father, Andy remained in the field and considered the smear of grey sky and the nearby flock of crows picking the unyielding still. But I will stay here, she thought, and no more for a long while. But now someone, Meg was yelling. Her father appeared at the wood's edge and waved for her to come. She ran, and pushed through a brake of elderberry and larch. The thick underbrush scorched her face. For a moment she felt lost and looked wildly about them. Where the brush seemed, she saw Nan standing quietly in the falling snow. They were staring down at the dead deer. A flame covered its upturned eye, and its body was slightly dusted with snow. I told you she wouldn't go too far, Andy's father said temporarily. We must have. Just missed it. She is too blind to see. We just damn lucky no animal got to her last night, Cherry muttered. Her father lifted the dew foreleg. The wound was blood-coated brown and checkered like frozen mold. Clean salt, he said to Cherry. He grinned. My little girl. Then he pulled out his knife, the blade gray as the morning. Meg whispered to Andy, now watch this, while Cherry's spoon lifted the deer from behind by his forelegs. So its head rested between his knees, its underside exposed. Her father's knife sliced thickly from the chest to belly to crotch. And Andy was running from them back to the field, and the crows scattering, the crowds who killed and cycled angrily. And now they were all calling to her, Cherry Spoon and Meg and her father, crying Andy, but that wasn't her name. She would no longer be called that. Yet louder than any of them was the wind blowing through the treetops like the ocean where her father and mother floated in green water, also coming, while all around her roared the mocking of a terrible, now inevitable sea.